AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hey, this is Todd Gleason from Illinois Extension here with a time change for our daily market report on WHOW. You can now catch our daily review of the commodity markets at 5:06 on all of WHOW's many platforms. You'll still hear all of our commodity analysts and weather professionals each afternoon, but at a brand new time. And you'll still hear the weekly wrap-up of the commodity markets right here on WHOW when Commodity Week airs Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Remember the time change for the daily closing market report on WHOW at our new time, 5:06 p.m. weekdays.
We are ready for spring here at Love It Once More Thrift Store in Clinton. This is Connie, and I also wanted to let you know that this month, when you bring us a donation, we'll give you a card worth 10% off your total purchase. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and DeWittDailyNews.com.
Hi, this is Ryan Utterback with Utterback Real Estate. It's greening up out there, and you know what that means.
St. Patty's Day, lad.
No. Green means go time for buying and selling.
The luck of the Irish be with you.
And that's why you're the other Ryan.
Click the Utterback Real Estate icon on DeWittDailyNews.com.
News time is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock on this Monday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and the morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. The Clinton Police Department is hoping to get a jump on purchasing vehicles in its next cycle of purchases. Clinton Police Chief Ben Lowers explains they're set to receive 2 new vehicles this spring, but they're almost a year late getting them.
So we do have kind of a rotation schedule of our fleet vehicles, and we've experienced some challenges really kind of coming out of COVID and the years since, getting those vehicles replaced just merely from a manufacturing and an availability standpoint. So you know, we're actually, as we speak, currently in the process of receiving or doing the transition of our first 2 units, and those were 2016 Ford Police Interceptors. But these are vehicles that we actually ordered back in the early fall of 2022, and it has taken them. These are 2023 models that we are just now, I mean, literally as we speak, having those vehicles transitioned over from our 2016s to our 2023s. With that, you know, we purchased these vehicles through Morrow Brothers Ford over in Greenville, Illinois, that holds the Illinois state contract for fleet vehicles in the Ford division. And so we've had some difficulty in getting those newer vehicles because of, you know, production post-COVID, but then also Ford had a strike last fall, and that slowed down production for a period of time. So just merely finding the inventory and getting those vehicles has been a bit of a challenge for us. So
while the next vehicle purchasing cycle is still a little ways off for the department, Chief Lowers explains they wanted to get a jump on those vehicle purchases. Last month, the Clinton City Council approved the department to purchase 2 new vehicles, and the chief notes that will allow them to purchase those when they become available.
What we do in our rotation system is, you know, we keep those vehicles 4 or 5 years. That seems to be about the life of them. You know, you have to consider that while those vehicles may only have 70 or 80,000 miles on them, those vehicles, you know, 95+% of those miles are in town, 30 to 40 miles an hour, a lot of stopping and going, a lot of running time. You know, they don't get out on the highway and as they say, blow those cobs out of them like a normal vehicle. So while those are maybe 70 or 80,000 miles, doesn't seem like a lot, those can be pretty tough miles on a vehicle just being in town all the time. So anyways, we've got that 4 to 5 year rotation. We ordered this set of vehicles back in 2022. We're just now getting, I think Ford is starting to catch up with their production. And so we're just now getting those Model 23s here in early 24. In dealing with the rep that we deal with through Morrow Brothers and the state contract, I understand that there may be a few leftovers or a few 2024s produced. And so I wanted to to get ahead of the game and get that approval from council to go ahead and purchase those, whether they're 2024s or if we're waiting for the 2025s. It's one of those situations that if the vehicles come available, we need to be in a position to go ahead and purchase them at that time. There's a tremendous demand for them.
Mostly gone by the wayside are police riding around in sedan-style vehicles. Now police vehicles are much larger. Chief Lauer says these new vehicles are much more equipped to handle all the equipment an officer requires, but they seem to be minimizing the wear on the bodies of the officers themselves.
Transitioning from the former sedans that we had to the SUVs, larger doors, they sit slightly higher. Not only is that an advantage for being able to see out of, but also it's been a huge benefit to those officers, all the equipment that's in the vehicles, but also all the equipment that are on the officers, their duty belts, their outer vests, all the equipment that they carry on them. You're talking 30 plus pounds of equipment, not having to squat down, I guess, to get into a sedan, getting in and out of the vehicle. Those of us that have been around long enough to have experienced the smaller sedans in the Chevy Impalas and things of that nature are very elated with the mid-size SUVs, the larger doors, not having to get down. They're just, and I think, long term, I think that's helping with officer injury, back issues, things of that nature. These vehicles, compared to even when I started or slightly before, when these vehicles had a light bar and a radio, now we have a computer, we have radar systems, we have video systems, we have chargers for our body camera. There's a tremendous amount of equipment, a tremendous amount of electrical demand in these vehicles. And so, they're a very important tool to us. It's hard to keep them up and running. We typically probably keep them 4 to 5 years. These have been a little bit longer, merely because of the production and the availability to get them replaced. But we reach a point that while they're very well maintained, it reaches a point where they're not really fiscally feasible for us when it comes to the repairs and things. Unfortunately, they're spending a lot of more time in the shop. It's time to get newer vehicles and get them back under warranty.
Chief Flowers notes they will be selling off 2 of the vehicles from its fleet as they plan to add new vehicles. March is Frozen Food Month, and a University of Illinois Extension nutrition educator has a wealth of information on a variety of food preservation through freezing. Caitlin Mellendorf is the nutrition educator at the U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. She says if you're making any soups this year, you can preserve any extra ingredients by freezing them.
Also, look at freezing extra ingredients that you have. So you open a can of tomato paste and you maybe only use a small portion of that can. Divvy out a little, 1 tablespoon or teaspoon, whatever measurements you like, onto a baking sheet. Stick that baking sheet in the freezer. And then once that is all frozen, you can pop out those little amounts of tomato paste into a freezer bag, and they can stay in your freezer for the next time you want to use them. You can thaw them out at room temperature if you're going to use it pretty quick, or you can maybe put it in the fridge overnight if you are going to use it maybe in 24 hours. So there's lots of options for freezing. And if you've got freezer space, I know mine is packed full just because I really enjoy that. Even I've been freezing rice, like cooked rice lately, which has been kind of a nice thing to have already cooked. It freezes, it's cooked, I cool it down, I put it in little containers. And so when I want cooked rice, I don't want to spend the time cooking it. I can pop it out, I can add a little water, I can, microwave it, or I could cook it like on a stovetop and just keep stirring until it's warmed through. I could talk for a long time about this. There's so much flexibility with your freezer.
Mellendorf explains, as we start to transition away from the soup season, you can preserve those for another time by freezing them. She points out you may notice the textures of some of the ingredients of various soups may not be the same when you thaw them.
And then the other side of the coin is prepared products. And so I love doing this just as you did with soup, with extra meals. So if I have extra chili, that's a great food to, pop in the freezer. I've done it with meat pasta sauces. There's really kind of anything you want to try in your freezer is going to be great. Just know that starchy foods will tend to break down in that freezing, and then when you thaw that food out and reheat it. So your chicken noodle soup, you might notice that the noodles are a little bit softer when you pull that soup out of the freezer. Same for if I froze pasta, whether it's in sauce or even just the individual noodles, the freezing process is going to kind of break apart those starches. They may kind of fall apart. Same for potatoes. Those will also kind of just dissolve into the food a little bit. If you're okay with that and you don't mind that it's a little bit softer of a leftover, not a problem.
According to Mellendorf, the other method of freezing is through preservation of fruits and vegetables. She explains, while canning season is mostly behind us, you can preserve any extra meat in the freezer and pull it out later when you need it.
Yeah, so if you have a freezer, this is an excellent way to store extra foods, just like you did with that extra soup. So most ingredients freeze really nicely. So I think about we can freeze fruits and vegetables. So that there's some categories that I want to cover. So for things like fruits and vegetables or meats, like these larger ingredients, we haven't done anything with them. They're not a prepared soup. They're not a prepared ingredient. It's just like on its own. I've got some extra broccoli. I've got some extra lemons. I've got some meat that I don't plan to cook this week. Can I freeze it? And in most cases, yep, you can definitely do that. A lot of folks may be familiar that we want to wrap that food fairly tightly, especially something like meat can get freezer burn, where the ice crystals kind of freeze and thaw as the cycle of the freezer freezes and thaws. And so we get these kind of dry patches in the meat. So we're going to want to wrap those tightly. But even something like, fruits and vegetables, we can typically freeze these foods really easily. I do recommend working with some resources from the University of Illinois, from the University of Georgia Extension.
Keep it to regional radio over the next several weeks as we'll continue to hear from Mellendorf on the variety of freezing methods. In the meantime, for more information on food preservation, visit extension.illinois.edu/DMP. Illinois Farm Bureau and the American Farm Bureau continue to push for a permanent farm bill. The IFB Executive Director of Governmental Affairs and Commodities is Kevin Semlow.
As we know, last fall, the Congress passed a continuing resolution. And part of that is to extend the farm program, the farm bill, for a complete year up until September 20th. So that is on the table. And unfortunately, with these budget talks and some of the other things, foreign aid and those things, it keeps getting pushed to the side. And we don't want to just get lost in the shuffle and in the focus. So we're going to continue to work with our Illinois congressional delegation. The other states are working with their delegations to say, look, we understand that you're having some problems, but the farm bill is very important, and we don't want to wait to the last minute. So we would like to see a farm bill passed yet this year.
Illinois has 5 reps on the House Ag Committee. Democrats Eric Sorensen, Nikki Budzinski, and Jonathan Jackson, along with Republicans Mike Bost and Mary Miller. News streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in